Today's the day that we're gonna finish this roof job. Previously, we got all the purlins installed, we got all the metal installed, and yesterday, well, last couple days, I have been working on installing all the gable trim. The gable trim is done. I'll show you a little flashback of me doing that work. Well, here's a view that you don't often see. This is the end of our home, the opposite end that we're usually standing at. And right now I am finishing up some of the gable trim work on this roof. I actually got this side all cut and installed. I'm happy with it. We actually did the other end all done. I'm down to the last piece and I said, you know, we gotta show you guys what's going on. So I'll take you along for this last piece. It's not a perfect job, but we're trying to work with the materials, work with this mobile home roof, and it's coming out okay. Now when it comes to folding roofing metal, I just kind of wing it. And what I'm trying to do is just create a closed end so that when it's on the bottom of the roof, you don't see under this trim. It'll kind of make sense once it's in place, but that's more or less what it needs to do. Now that I have that folded, I'm just gonna cut this to length and get it put up there. All right, we got this all cut. Now, I'm gonna pre-drill it. Then we're gonna throw some butyl tape on it to seal it to the roof. Almost ready for the install. Ay, ay, ay. What am I doing? This butyl tape has been terrible to work with lately. Well, it's done. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it works and it looks okay. Gonna be hard to see, but right up there is where I folded the end down to kind of cap the trim so that you wouldn't see a big cave because the roof is here. And I didn't want you to see that, so I just folded that down. Looks good. And now all that's left is the ridge cap. So the ridge cap is pretty easy, but there's gonna be a lot of back and forth. And so what I have to do is I have to go up on the roof. I'm gonna start laying closure strips. These are the foam strips that are gonna keep all the weather from blowing up under our ridge cap, keep the bugs out. And then we're gonna set the ridge caps in place and we gotta mark them. And we're gonna have to take them down and pre-drill them. I don't have to do that step, but I want to. Pretty easy job. Let's get working. So here are the foam strips. They just come 4-door pack and they have a sticky bottom, so we'll peel them off and get them put on top of the metal. Let me just feel my foot grip. It's amazing how quick the roof gets dirty.
Yeah.
I should point out that, let me come back over. Does that look so crooked? I should point out that yesterday I actually made marks. I measured down and made marks on the roof to show where the ridge cap would land, so that when I'm putting these on, I can put them in just under the ridge cap. So that's how I'm spacing them, pre-measured. pre-marked all the way down the roof. Now I have a nice straight line to follow. I made it about halfway down the roof, and I just feel like I should start getting ridge cap on here, so I'm gonna stop with the foam, get the first piece of ridge going. I feel like it'll help hold the foam in place. It's glued, but the foam expands in the sun and it's kind of getting weird, so. I just feel like pre-drilling's the way to go.
Me too. Don't squish it too much when you're doing this.
We'll just keep working it down. It seems tedious, but it's not too bad.
You know?
Let me see if I can get. All right, the first piece of ridge cap is secure. It looks good. I'm happy. You see how these are getting a little bit wobbly? That's why I decided to stop and just get the ridge on. So I'm gonna straighten these out. We'll get the next piece laid out. So we've pretty much abandoned pre-drilling. We realized this was taking, I realized it was taking too long, and I didn't feel like spending so much time on the roof. So I've just been throwing the sheets up there, the ridge caps, and screwing them in. It's actually not that hard to just screw through the metal without pre-drilling. I was trying to do it pretty, but I don't have time for that. So we've made it to the last piece, and I have to cut it to length. We're gonna fold the end to seal the gap on the top and make it pretty looking, and then we'll get it up there. So, cutting the last piece. I should come to the other side to finish this off. It'll be easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the whole idea is to like close this area, because when it's on the roof, there's a big hole there. So however you get that done, just do it, right?
Yep.
We'll just cut it.
I was wondering this. You don't like the video, and
I'll be back.
you can make a 2+.
So I'm just gonna like eyeball this. Guys, I really just make this up. That's the truth of the matter. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I just look at it and I try to imagine what it should look like when it's done, and I try to get there. Just gonna cut these corners off. I don't mean to keep bringing this far away. It's just such a long piece of metal. I gotta work with it.
There's a mouse in the house. Let me sleep.
Okay, ready? Last piece, last bend, whatever I'm doing. But that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, if I did that right, it should fit.
Look.
What's on this? Tape? The tape messed my technique up.
Bill, what is it? Oh, what happened? Listen to me.
Well guys, not too much to see in this one, but we just got the last piece up. Now here's the plan, here's what I did. I have it tacked in. What I mean is I don't have every single screw and every single rib. I have it secured so it can't blow off. It's gonna keep the water out. But I'm gonna leave it not completely finished because there's a couple of things that I have to do before we tie it all in. One is we have to seal the laps where the ridge cap overlaps each other, because it's kind of a flat lap and you want to make sure water isn't going to roll in and get into your roof. So that really needs to be sealed with a roof sealant. The reason I'm not doing that yet is because later on, as we renovate this trailer, we may have to remove pieces of this roof. I know that sounds crazy, but I have to keep these roof panels accessible because I have to install multiple plumbing vents that are going to come out the roof, as well as a kitchen range hood vent that comes out the roof. So we're going to have probably 3 more vents popping up, and it's going to be easier if when I get to that stage I can just slide a roofing panel off, drill my holes, put the pipe in, seal it up, and do all that without the new panel in the way, and then I can cut the new panel and put it back on. With these new vents in mind, I want to make sure that I'm not going to seal this too tightly, putting roofing sealant on the flashing so it can't come apart. You know, it'll just be a mess. So everything is secure, the roof is done, and later on it'll be more done when we're ready for that. So yeah, it's kind of a cycle. A lot of these jobs, people give us a hard time for not getting our projects done. They say, do you ever finish anything? We finish loads of things, guys, tons of things. But sometimes you have to work around multiple jobs and you can't always finish everything completely until you get to that stage. So definitely planning ahead for my vents. I want to make it easy for myself, and it's nothing to take one of these roof panels off. Pop the screws out and slide it out of the way, and then I can put new screws in it. The gaskets will be fresh, it'll be fine. No problems. There's a couple of questions I wanted to answer about this roof though before we get too far away from it. A lot of people keep bringing up insulation, wondering why we haven't, or if we had considered putting foam board insulation between the metal and the roof, between the purlins, you know, under the roof. We've answered this so many times, but we keep getting asked, so I'm going to answer it finally right here, and that is the foam board insulation, we can't justify the expense of it. We're trying to keep this project affordable. We weren't expecting to put a new roof on it, but we said we might as well just do it because it's the best thing to do. To add foam to this would add another $1,000 to the roof cost. I don't want to spend another $1,000 to put this roof on. You put an extra $1,000 into it to get R5. And what is that R5 going to really do? It's not that big of a deal, especially in our mild climate. We're in Florida. It doesn't get very cold. Even the heat isn't that bad. And when you have a double layer roof, like we have the old metal, the new metal with an 1.5 inch air gap in there, you're going to get very little radiant heat coming through the two layers, and we're going to have an insulated roof. This home has been sitting here for 40 years with a little tiny amount of loose fill insulation in the attic, and that's it. We're going to be adding more insulation, thicker insulation, more modern insulation, and we put a double roof on it. So it's kind of like we put a shade over our house. We have a roof blocking the sun, another roof underneath it. There's no reason to spend another $1,000 on insulation for an R5 or less, and there's the cost return on that, it isn't there. This is an investment property, and we would never get anything for that $1,000. We would just lose money and put us further behind on this project. So that's why we're not doing foam board in the roof. And honestly, I've never even seen that done before. I don't know why it's so popular, because I've never seen it. Another question that comes up is closure strips. You can see we just installed them all along the ridge because the ridge has large gaps. We didn't install closure strips on the bottom edge because it's not needed. That's what the roofing people told us. We went to the roofing company that sells the roof and we said, you know, what do we need? Do we need closure strips? And they said, it's up to you. They said it's optional. And they told me that about 10% of people put them in. Only 10%. That means 90% of people who are installing roofs, they don't add them. So they told me it's not needed. Doesn't really serve any purpose. They said it's actually good because it lets the roof breathe a little bit, lets some of that heat have some place to go. Since we're closing the top, at least leave that bottom open. And those gaps are so tiny, nothing's going to be getting in there. And even if a wasp goes in there, if they want to build a nest in the hot roof, I don't care, honestly. It's not that big of a deal. So we didn't worry about closure strips on the bottom as per the recommendations of the roofing people. And I think the roof all turned out pretty good. The roof adds less than 2 pounds per square foot on the house. It's not a very heavy roof. I think the metal, all the metal together, was only just over 500 pounds worth of metal. So if you picture 500 pounds over that entire structure, it's not that bad. And I think that was it. I can't remember any other major questions or topics that came up, but roof is done, came out good. I feel more confident doing roofs now. Every roof I do, I get better at it, but I can appreciate a shingle roof. Those are a lot easier. People, they underestimate a shingle roof. But a shingle roof would be much too heavy for this house. That's it. I think we might just go home, find something else to do.